Welcome back to Global Business Europe. China's box office hit a record high this summer, with domestic films performing far better than Hollywood hits. The industry has raked in $2.78 billion in ticket sales this season from June to August. That's higher than the pre-pandemic record set in 2019. And Chinese films account for most of that market, with at least 4 features bringing in more than $270 million, outperforming global Hollywood blockbusters such as Barbie and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning in China.
Well, among the successful Chinese films this summer is Fengshen, also known as The Creation of Gods. The film features impressive visual effects. One of the companies that pioneered the use of visual effects in Chinese cinema is the Emmy Award-winning studio BaseFX. Christopher Bremble is the company's founder and CEO.
Visual effects, it can heighten that enjoyment, it can heighten that experience, it can make things more close and more intimate from an action perspective. But a good story is always going to be important. And we often get into this dialogue about, is it a good story or is it the visual effects? I often will remind people it's also about characters we care about and love. And if we don't have a character at the center of us, even a good story, if we don't have a character we love or we care about, nothing's going to help. So we see visual effects as really a part of the, I don't want to say window dressing, but certainly a part of the recipe for audience enjoyment, for excitement, for giving someone that little bit of extra thrill.
Give us a global perspective, if you would, on the importance of the visual effects industry in international cinema. Where are we? And where does China, the United States, and Europe sit?
So, visual effects is a rich man's luxury. It's expensive, and so it's still very much dominated by Hollywood. The budgets there are able to, sort of contain the costs of visual effects. I remember, 10 years ago, someone said, "Oh, $40 million is the new black," which meant, was $40 million was a normal budget for visual effects. That number is now can be very easily beyond 100 for big films, and so it's still a very expensive thing. And so you see, obviously, the biggest clients are all Marvel, Warner Brothers, DC. It's the big players in Hollywood. In Europe, again, we don't see a lot because of the regionality of cinema in Europe. We don't see a lot of those budgets, and so visual effects in Europe tends to be smarter. And I don't mean that visual effects in Hollywood films is dumb. It just means it's got to be much more carefully used because of the cost issues associated with it. Now what we're seeing is the return sort of the visual effects market in China. We're seeing, after COVID, after the pandemic, which really hit the film industry here hard, we're seeing audiences beginning to return to theaters. And we're seeing, again, audiences returning to films that are about audience enjoyment, that are big, that are bold, and that give the kind of thrills you want when you're paying, a lot of money to sit down and watch a movie at a theater.
Hey, let's look at the future. How long before AI replaces human creatives like you?
We've been, as a studio, looking at it. It's a double-edged sword. It's a very interesting world for us. We have clients in Hollywood, and we have to sign, we have to sign documents promising we will not use AI in our work because there are still concerns about, ownership and copyright when it comes to AI-generated images. On the other hand, we have clients in China who are pushing us AI. They want us to use as much as we can to bring the cost down as fast as we can. And so it's a real push-pull for us when it comes to looking at the technology. But what we really still see is, the example I gave to someone the other day was, there was a time when it took, 50 people to move something, and then some guy came along with a wheel. And it didn't take 50 people anymore. And, you didn't look at the wheel and want to kick it and push it down the hill and say that that's a dumb thing, we don't want it. So clearly generative AI is something that's going to be valuable to every industry, everywhere we can touch. But at the same time, we're still human beings, and it's still